All right, Shabbos, say good morning. Let us begin. We have a beautiful daf ahead of us today. I want to begin by thanking our sponsors for this morning. Sure to thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Sivan, Justin and Abigail Rosemore, for dedicating all of the Shiur and Drashos this month in memory of their beloved son Kobe, Yaakov David, Chaim Yaakov David, Zichron L'Bracha ben Yosef Tzadok. We also thank our monthly Talmud Torah sponsors, Alan and Sue Meirowitz and family, Jason, Deborah, Justin, Rebecca, Mindy, Simcha, and all the grandchildren for dedicating all of the learning this month in the merit of a refuah shlema for Sue. Shulam Mistova Bas Mindel. Sue went into the hospital yesterday to begin the process for her bone marrow transplant, which will Emir Hashem B'Sha'a Tova U'Mitzlachas occur next week. We wish Sue, together with Kol Chali Yisrael, a complete and enduring refuah. We also thank the Meyrowitzes for sponsoring the Day of Learning in memory of Sue's sister, Cynthia Baral, Chaya Tzivya Sara Bas Nossan Halevi. We thank our DAF sponsors today, Debbie Howarth, L'Chavod HaTorah Kedosha, and in honor of all those who learn its holy words, and an uplifting Chag Sameach to all. And a thank you to Sonia Kozlovsky for dedicating the DAF this morning in honor of Baruch Fischel's birthday. We take the opportunity to wish Baruch Fischel, a charter member of the DAF, right? Back from our early days, even before it was DAF Yomi, when it was Amud Yomi, we wish Baruch Fischel a happy birthday, and I will say with that, let us begin. So beautiful DAF today. Today's DAF is Pei Gimel 83, and we are picking up on the top of Pei Gimel. Rabbi Akiva, Lemay Hilchasa Iska Shlindis. So we'll remember again, we're really in the quite fascinating topic of Avodah Zarah. Specifically, again, the Mishnah introduced us to the position of Rabbi Akiva, who holds that Avodah Zarah is metamin like a nida, which, to say a little bit differently, that the same way that nida conveys tumas masa, if a person carries a nida, right, even if there's not direct contact, the act of carrying transmits tuma, so too halacha l'maisa, again, if a person carries Avodah Zarah, so carrying Avodah Zarah transmits tuma as well. So we saw already in yesterday's daf a fascinating machlokes between whether or not, again, is Avodah Zarah conveys tumas nida or tumas sheretz. The nafkamina being tumas sheretz, of course, is tumas maga, only conveys tuma through contact. And we saw that there are conflicting psukim. So we continue with this discussion. Rabbi Akiva, l'may hilchosa iskesh l'nida. According to Rabbi Akiva, ultimately, again, what's the comparison between Avodah Zarah and nida? Lemasa. Ultimately, again, to teach us that just as nida conveys tumas masa, so too again Avodah Zarah conveys tumas masa as well. I look shela nevela, but 1 second, why not compare Avodah Zarah to nevela? After all, again, nevela, which is the carcass of an animal, also conveys tumas masa. Enachinami. The Gemara says you're right. That could work as well. Ela manida eno leivarin, af Avodah Zarah eno leivarin. But the comparison to nida is very important because it teaches us that halacha l'maisa, just as we saw about this yesterday, let's say you have a situation where a woman is a nida and she has a limb that's amputated. That limb does not convey tumas nida. So too by Avodah Zarah, and we'll get into this a little bit later in the daf, by Avodah Zarah, if you have an Avodah Zarah of parts, right, and one of the parts comes off, that part does not have tumas Avodah Zarah anymore. Elahad by Rabbi Chaim bar Guria Avodah Zarah yesh leivarim. Oh, Eino le'ivarim. But 1 second. In fact, the Gemara asked that question. Rav Chama bar Guria asked this question: does Avodah Zarah continue to convey tuma, even if it is not whole, even if it is in parts, or not? Tiv shot le'meha. You could answer it based on this. Bein l'Rabbanan, bein l'Rabbi Akiva, de'ina le'ivarim. So you can answer this again, ultimately again, both according to the Rabbanan and Rabbi Akiva. Avodah Zarah does not convey tuma in pieces. In other words, so just if you can imagine, if you have an Avodah Zarah that's made up of multiple pieces, and somebody pulls off, again, we'll get into this in just a little bit, but someone pulls off a piece of it, halacha l'maisa, that piece no longer conveys Avodah Zarah. So why would Rav Chama bar Guria even ask the question? To which the Gemara says, because Rav Chama bar Guria kirabba masni, because Rav Chama bar Guria, he had the version of Rabba, like we saw in yesterday's daf, Uboy lo aliba de Rabbi Akiva. And he was asking his question according to Rabbi Akiva, because in Rabba's model, or in Rabba's construct, ultimately, again, it was not clear what Rabbi Akiva held about the pieces of Avodah Zarah. Okay, so Meisvei, the Gemara is Zekasha, Avodah Zara kisheretz, umishameshah kisheretz. So we'll say we have a brisa that says, Avodah Zara is treated like a sheretz, or it's really easy to say that just like sheretz conveys tumas maga, tuma through contact, so to Avodah Zara conveys tumas maga, conveys tuma through contact. Bishlam Rabbi Elazar Necha. So we'll say according to Rabbi Elazar, this makes sense. Ela l'Rabba Kashya, but according to the way Rabba interpreted the machlokes, this is problematic. Amar l'cha Rabba, Rabba will tell you, mi alima mi masnisin. Is this brisa any stronger than our Mishnah? Because after Aganabos, we had a Mishnah on Pei Beis and Aleph, yesterday's daf. And what did the Mishnah say? Diktani eitzav va'avanav va'afarav mitamin kisheretz. Ultimately, again, the Mishnah says that Rabbi say if you have, remember this is by the collapsed wall. If you have the collapsed wall, and remember this was talking about a situation where my home has a shared wall with a house of Avodah Zarah. So ultimately, again, what did we say? We said that halacha l'maisa, the wood, the stones, and the dirt have the ability to convey tumas sheretz. V'ukmina, and we said, what does it mean that it conveys tumas sheretz? My kisheretz. So let's remember again, the way we interpreted that yesterday is to say, not that literally it conveys tumah, like tumas sheretz, because again, remember, Avodah Zarah is really like nida, really conveys tumas maga, tumas masa. So what does it mean when it says it's like sheretz? It does not convey tumas even mesama. But remember again from yesterday's daf, even mesama, imagine you have a rock that is on posts, and there's a rock that is suspended. So it's put on, let's say, pegs. So therefore, again, then you have something tame that is on top of the rock, and a person walks under the rock. So the Tumah of Even Mesama says that when a person walks under the rock, we essentially view it as if they're holding the rock, which therefore also means they're holding the item that is tame, which is on top of the rock, in which case that a person could technically contract tumas masa. So the Gemara says, when we said that the dirt, the stones, and the wood of the wall conveys tumah like tumas sheretz, we didn't literally mean like tumas sheretz, that it only conveys tumah through maga, not through masa, but rather just like sheretz does not convey tumah through even misama, so too we're trying to say that the materials that came from this wall also do not convey tumah through even misama. Hachanami to lometamik even misama. That's what it meant, but it didn't literally mean to say that Avodah Zarah is like sheretz, because rather we accept the view that Avodah Zarah is really like nida. So we'll say first wide line, Pei Gimel Amud Aleph, Meisvei. So the Gemara raises a kasha, Nachri v'Nachris, Avodah Zarah u'mishameshaha, Hein v'lo haSeitan. So we'll say if you have a non-Jew, right? So Nachri means a Gentile or a female non-Jew, right? So u'mishameshaha, or excuse me, Avodah Zarah, idolatry, or mishamashah, or ultimately again those things which serve the Avodah Zarah. So hein velo haSeitan. Now what does this mean? These items or these people convey tumah, but ultimately again not if they are carried. So look at Rashi for just a moment. Hein velo haSeitan, kasakadai tcha haSeitan. Mashma shehustu dahainu masa velo kishara seito shebasas the mashma shatame hesed achirim. So we'll say here, this is different. Tumas hesed normally means something a little bit different. In this context, what heseitan means is masa. So what the Gemara seems to be saying is as follows: that if you were to go ahead and carry a non-Jew, a nachri or a nachris, or avodah zarah, or misham sheha, those things which go ahead and serve the avodah zarah, what's the halacha? These items convey tumah. Apparently, it sounds like what it's saying is through maga, but not through masa, which would seem to say that the tumah of avodah zarah is a tumah that more resembles sheretz than it does nida. Rabbi Akiva Omer, no, hein v'haSeitan. Rabbi Akiva says not true. Even if you go out and you carry these items, even without direct contact, halacha l'maisa, that still conveys tumah. So bishlama the Rabbi Elazar Necha. So according to Elazar, ultimately, again, this makes sense. Ella l'Rabba kashya. But according to Rabba, ultimately, this is problematic. Amalacha Rabba will say, 1 second, ulatamech, nochri v'nochris nami hein v'lo haSeitan. Is that true ultimately, again, that by nochri and the nochris, If you carry them, they only convey tumas maga, not tumas masa. Is that true? Vatanya, we learned, Daber al b'nei Yisrael metamin beziva, ve'enochrim metamin beziva. Yet we learned in the Brisa says, speak to the Jewish. What I will say, the passage that they're quoting over here is, Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'mart aleim, ish kiyeh zov mibsaro, zovei tamehu. This is the pasuk by Zov. Right? If a man has some type of Zav emission, so ultimately, again, he conveys Tumah. What do we learn from here? Only a Jew could go ahead and contract Tumas Zivos. A Gentile cannot. Aval gozru alein she'ik kizavon l'chol divrayim. But Chazal legislated, Chazal enacted, that essentially, again, a Gentile has the status of a Zav. Even though mid'oraisa, only a Jew can become a Zav, but again, Chazal legislated that even a Nachri can become a Zav. Ella, Rabba metaris letame. Rather, Rabba explains this according to his reasoning. Nachri v'nochris hein v'hasetan. The truth is, when it comes to the tumah of a non-Jew, whether through maga or through masa, a person becomes tameh. Ve'even mesama shalohen. And not only that, but again, I will say, so we've seen this before, that mid-Rabbanan, essentially Chazal conveyed tumas zivos on a nachri and a nachris. Essentially conveyed a state of tumah, or conferred a state of tumah upon every non-Jew. I will say that the reason that was done was also to go ahead and discourage intermarriage and to create a certain level of disassociation between Jew and non-Jew. If you go ahead and you confer a certain level of ritual impurity upon the non-Jew, by definition, I have to keep my distance, which is exactly what Chazal wanted. So therefore, the Gemara says as follows. According to Rabbi, he holds like this. In reality, a Nachri and a Nachris ultimately convey not only Tumas Maga, but also Tumas Masa. Not only that, but a Nachri and a Nachris could convey Tumah through Evan Mesama. So if a Nachri or a Nachris are on top of a stone, and I walk underneath that stone, halacha l'maaseh, it's as if I carried them, and I will become tamei through Tumas Masa. Avodah Zarah, when it comes to Avodah Zarah, he ve'aseta, avalo Evan Mesama shala. Same idea by idolatry. Avodah Zarah, both say, conveys Tumah, ultimately, again, both through Maga as well as through Masa, but not through Evan Mesama. So if the Avodah Zarah is on top of a rock and I walk underneath that rock, it is not viewed as if I am carrying the Avodah Zarah. Rabbi Akiva says no. Avodah Zarah, he v'haseta ve'evan Mesama. And Rabbi Akiva disagrees. Rabbi Akiva holds that halacha l'maisa Avodah Zarah will convey Tumah through Maga, through Masa, and through Evan Mesama. Rabbi Elazar metaris l'tamei. So we'll say Rabbi Elazar, he will interpret according to his reasoning, and he will say as follows: Nachri v'nachris hein v'hasetan ve'evan Mesama shalahen. Right, a Gentile Nachri and a Nachris, both hein v'hasetan, both through Maga and through Masa, and Evan Mesama. So Nachri, so in Rabbi Elazar's model, so a non-Jew will convey Tumah through Maga, Masa, Evan Mesama. Avodah Zarah, he v'lo haseta. Interesting, according in Rabbi Elazar's model, he holds that according to the Rabbanon, Avodah Zarah only conveys Tumah through Maga and not through Masa. Rabbi Akiva says no. Avodah Zarah, he v'haseta. Avodah Zarah actually conveys Tumah. How? Ultimately, again, through Maga and through Masa. Maskif Ravashi, so Ravashi raises a kasha. Maskif Ravashi, my hain. So ultimately, again, what does it mean when it says hain? Hain v'seitan. Ravashi Achikamer. This is what it means to say Nachri v'nachris. So Ravashi reinterprets the Brisa. He says as follows: Nachri v'nachris, when it comes to a non-Jew, bein hain shesitu esachirim. Bein achirim shesitu osan tameim. So we'll say, interestingly enough, when it comes to the Nachri and Nachris, whether they carried others or they were carried by others, they transmit tumah. Right? That's what it means. Hain. Whether they carried or they were carried, they convey tumas masa. Avodah Zarah shesita achirim tahorim. If Avodah Zarah carried others, the others are tahar, but achirim she'esiton osa tameim. But ultimately, again, others who carry avodah zara, ultimately, again, are going to become tamei through tumas masa. Misham sheha bein hein she'esitu as achirim, bein achirim she'esitu osan tahorim. When it comes to those items, service utensils of avodah zara, whether they carried others or others carried them, ultimately, again, they will be tahar. Rabbi Akiva says, we'll say, again, we're going to define what this means in just a moment. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Nochri v'nochres v'avodah zara, both again, Gentile as well as avodah zara, bein hein she'esitu as achirim, bein achirim she'esitu osan tameim. Whether they carried others or others carried them, they will be tamei. Misham shah, the service utensils of avodah zara, bein hein she'esitu achirim, bein achirim she'esitu osan tahorin. Whether ultimately, again, they carry others or others carry them, they will be tar. So we'll say, so the Gemara asks a simple question on this. Avodah zara, let me get this straight. You just talked about a case of where either people carry avodah zara or avodah zara carries people. I don't understand that statement. Avodah zara bishlam achirim she'esitin osa meshkachas la. I understand the case of a person carrying avodah zara. Okay, but what does it mean? Elihi she'esitas achirim heichin meshkachas. So remember, what did we just say before? We said whether a person carries avodah zara or avodah zara carries a person, halacha l'maaseh conveys tumah. So I understand the case of a person who carries avodah zara. Okay, that's just tam. A person picks up an idol. But what's the case of where avodah zara carries a person? What does that mean? So this is actually very interesting. Amar Rami Bereid Raviva Kidisnan. The following is in this will say, Hazov bekaf ma'aznayim va'ochlin umashkim bekaf shnia. Kara hazav tmeina. Let's listen to this case. Let's say you have a zav. You have a very large scale. And you have a person who's a zav sits down on one side of the scale. And on the other side of the scale, for example, there's food and drink. If the zav is heavier than the food and drink, and therefore when he sits down, he causes the food and drink side of the scale to be lifted, so his weight lifts the food and drink, that is the equivalent of the zav lifting these items, and therefore conveys tumah to the food and drink. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Kara hazav tamein, share hesiton zav, ve'seto shal zav ki agav neksiv, bein b'kelim, bein ba'adam, bein ba'ochlin, umashkin. So therefore, ultimately, we'll say the novelty over here is we always thought up until now that the lifting of a zav literally required the zav to go ahead and do so with his hands. What the Brisa introduces us now to is the idea that even if the zav's weight causes something else to be lifted, like in the case of the scale, that is the equivalent. That is the equivalent of the zav lifting it himself. So too the Gemara suggests, Amud Beis, oh, I should say on the flip side, Karohain, but if let's say the food and drink was heavier than the zav, therefore the food and drink side went down and the zav went up, Tahorin. Ultimately, again, the food and drink are tahar. Why? Because at the end of the day, we don't view it as if the zav lifted them. They lifted the zav, which is not problematic. Therefore, what the Gemara wants to suggest is perhaps that's the case of avodah zara lifting something. When can you ever have a case of avodah zara that, let's say, lifts a person? Very simple. If you have a large scale, the avodah zara is on one side, the person's on the second side. You put the avodah zara on the scale, and the avodah zara is so heavy that it lifts the individual on the other side of the scale. That would be an example, ultimately, again, of avodah zara lifting the individual. So the Gemara says, Kiman azlaha desanya. So whose opinion is reflected in the following brisa? Kalatmeos hamasitos tahoros chutz meheseto shalzav. We'll say in general, anything that is tameh, right? Anything that is tameh, that ultimately, again, lifts something that is tahar, is going to be tahar with the exception of zav. Shalomatzinu lo chaver b'chala Torah kula. For we find nothing else like zav in the entire Torah. Now, we'll say what this brisa sounds like is that halacha l'maisa, the only time something could convey tumah, or I should say, the only time a tameh item could convey tumah to something that is tahar by lifting it is zav. which again is problematic for us because we just said before that avodah zarah could also convey tumah to something else through lifting it. Yet this brisa clearly indicates that that's not the case. So whose opinion does this reflect? Say, look at Rashi for just a moment. Rashi right across, kol tamim hamasitos, anything that is tummy that lifts something else. Achirim kigon bekaf ma'aznayim o adam tame meis shehesit es chaveru tahorim. So ultimately, again, so here we just got finished talking about the idea of that avodah zarah that lifts something can convey tumah to the item it's lifted. And we said, how could avodah zarah lift something? Avodah zarah is inanimate; it can't do anything. Oh, if you put avodah zarah on the scale, and there's a person on the other side of the scale that einach inami, the avodah zarah could convey tumah to the individual. But the brisa says over here that the only time that an item that is tameh or something that is tameh could convey tumah to something that is tahar by lifting it is in the case of the zav, which would tell us that this dynamic does not work by avodah zarah. To which the Gemara says, "You're right, lema delok Rabbi Akiva. It must not reflect the view of Rabbi Akiva. Why? Di Rabbi Akiva ikenami avodah zarah. Because what's according to Rabbi Akiva, it's not just zav, but even avodah zarah, if it lifts something, can convey tumah to the item it is lifting." To which the Gemara says, "No, afilu tema Rabbi Akiva." It can even reflect the view of Rabbi Akiva. Rather, how do you have to read it? Tana zav v'chol dedamila. Rather, read it as zav and anything like it. What the brisa means to say is as follows: that halacha l'maisa, just like a zav, if it lifts something or if he lifts something, that is tahar, he could convey tumah to that item. And again, even if he doesn't directly lift it, but like in the case of the scale, he's on one side and his weight causes the item to be lifted up. So halacha l'maisa, again, that conveys tumah. So too anything like zav has the ability to do the same. And I will say, at least according to Rabbi Akiva, what is an item that is like a zav? Avodah zarah. And therefore, again, the weight of avodah zarah could also cause, if it causes something to be lifted up, could also convey tumah to that very item. Okay, Ba'i Reb Chama Bar Guria. Avodah. So I just want to point out, we still have not resolved the core question. The core question is, everyone agrees that avodah zarah conveys tumah. That everyone agrees with. What's the machlokes? The machlokes is how and to what degree. So we have Rabbi Akiva telling us that ultimately, again, avodah zarah conveys tumah like a nida, even tumas masa. Other opinions, the Rabbanon will say that no, avodah zarah only conveys tumah like a sheretz, i.e. tumas maga. So that core point has not yet been resolved. Again, we'll see the Rambam. Well, we're going to see the rest of the Gemara first. But I just want to point out that has not been resolved. But the Gemara transitions to a different question. Ba'i Reb Chama Bar Guria, avodah zarah, yeshna le'evarim or ina le'evarim. We'll see now another interesting shayla. We spoke about this before. Imagine for a moment you have an avodah zarah made of pieces. Made of pieces. And what happens? One piece of the avodah zarah is removed. It's removed. So the shayla is, does the detached avodah zarah appendage, right? We'll call it the detached avodah zarah limb. Does that still convey tumas avodah zarah or not? So the Gemara says, well, let's analyze. So the Gemara says, so if it's a piece that's detached, and even a hedyot, right? So even like a simple person who's not especially skilled could very easily return it, then everyone will agree, the kimande mechaberes dami. So we'll say, if you're talking about an avodah zarah that's made of pieces, and ultimately, again, once the piece becomes detached, it can very easily be reattached, then everyone will agree that halacha l'maisa, that's considered already to be attached, and therefore the limb, so to speak, will still convey to us avodah zarah. Kiti by the where does the shaila come up? Heichad de'ein hedyot yachal lahachzira. The shaila comes up in a situation where a simple person doesn't have the ability to return the limb to place. Right? What happens in that kind of circumstance where an individual simply does not have that ability? So the Gemara says, "Mai, what would you say under those circumstances?" So do you say, since a simple person doesn't have the ability to put the limb back onto the avodah zarah, it's considered broken, and because it's considered broken, therefore the detached piece of avodah zarah does not transmit to mas avodah zarah. O Dilma, or perhaps the other possibility is ha lo mechsera. at the end of the day, the piece is there, right? The piece is intact, and although an individual, a simple individual can't do it, someone a bit more skilled can, and therefore it should still convey tumas avodah zarah. Gisa. Others ask the question in a different way. Watch, it's supposed to say there's a little bit of a reframing of the question. Where a head yod, a simple person, doesn't have the ability to return the piece to its place, that's not a shaila. So we'll say again, if the avodah zarah is broken, right, or the piece is detached, and a simple person doesn't have the ability to reattach it, to fix it, everyone agrees the mispira dummy, that it's considered to be broken, and therefore the appendage or the piece does not convey tumas avodah zarah. Ay kiti bailecha. Where does the shaila come up? Heichad the head yod yachal lahachzira. Both say the shaila comes up in a situation where a simple person does have the ability to go ahead and return it. So what's the halacha in such a case like that? Kevan the head yod yachal lahachzira kiman de mispira dami. Do we say that ultimately again? Since the mechabra, I keep saying this word, the mechabra, do we say that since a simple person has the ability to fix it, that it's considered whole, it's considered intact, and therefore even though the limb of the avodah zarah is technically detached, we view it as if it is attached. Odama, hashtamia kashalfa v'sharya. Or do we say no? The fact that he could easily reattach it, that's very nice. But lamais, at the end of the day, right now, it's detached. And because it's detached, it should be treated accordingly. And therefore, halacha lamaisa does not convey tumah. To which the Gemara says, teku. It's a good shaila. We don't have the answer for it. Okay. So we'll say, the Gemara goes weiter. Boy Rav Achta Boy Bar Ami. Avodah zarah. So we'll say, therefore, two outstanding questions. Question number one, what's the nature of tumas avodah zarah? Is it tumas maga, tumas masa? Is it like sheretz or is it like nida? Question number two, if you have a piece of detached avodah zarah, right? We'll call it the limb of the avodah zarah that's detached. Does it convey tumah or not? And the corollary to that is, does it make a difference if it's easily reattached or not? Okay, another question. Avodah zarah pechusa mikizayis. What's an interesting shaila? What is the status of avodah zarah that is less than a kizayis? So we'll say, let's say you have, now we'll say this is talking about a situation over here where the avodah zarah is intact. The avodah zarah is intact, but it's an avodah zarah law, right? It's a little avodah zarah, right? The kleiner avodah zarah. So we'll say, so the shaila is, if you have a little avodah zarah that is smaller than a kizayis, so does that have the same general status? In other words, will that still convey tumah even though it's so small? I was supposed to say, so independent of how you come out on the tumah discussion, in other words, whether that avodah zarah is like, maga or masa, like sheretz or nida. So the shaila is, what happens if you have a very small avodah zarah? Does that convey tumah or not? Mau. So maskif Rav Yosef lemai. What are we talking about? So we'll say, if you're talking about the fact that ultimately, again, does an avodah zarah less smaller than a kizayis have an isser hana? Remember, again, one is not permitted to get any benefit from avodah zarah. So is that your shaila? Is your shaila is whether or not avodah zarah that's smaller than a kizayis, is it usr? Is there an isser hana on it? So the truth is that's not really a shaila. Lo yehe elas vov bal ekron. It should be no different than the avodah zarah that was called the fly of Bal Ekron. Bal Ekron was an avodah zarah, and it was an avodah zarah that was in the form of a fly. This sanya, because also we learned in the Brisa, quotes over here the pasuk from Shoftim, "Vayasimu lahem bal bris leelohim ze zevov Bal Ekron." So both say the Navi over here talks about the fact that the people were worshiping this avodah zarah called Zevuv Bal Ekron. That's what it was called, right? Ekron was a city. Right, but Zevuv Bal Ekron was the fly of Bal Ekron. This is what people worship. So this is incredible. How do they worship it? We're also in worshiping this avodah zarah. Every person made an image of the fly. Right, he made an image of this avodah zarah. Umanicha besoch kiso. He would put the avodah zarah in his pocket. Kevan shezochra. Whenever he would remember his avodah zarah, Motzia mitoch kiso. He would take it out of his pocket, umechabka umenashka, and he would kiss it and he would hug it. I will say that's how much they loved their avodah zarah. They kept it in their pocket, and whenever they would think about it, they would kiss it and they would hug it. So I will say, what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maaseh, even if the avodah zarah is very small, it still has the status of avodah zarah. So if you're asking, does an avodah zarah that's less than the size of a kizayis have an isser hana, prohibition to get benefit? That's obvious. We'll say, there's something to be learned from this. So I'll say, what they were being mekayim in their own warped avodah zarah way was shivisi avodah zarah lenegdi samid. Right? They kept it in their pocket. And whenever they thought about it, they took it out and they hugged it and they kissed it. And I will say, remember again, there's something to be learned from every individual, even from the Ovdei Avodah Zarah. The notion of constantly wanting to keep your God close, right? And when being inspired by your God to hug it and to kiss it, imagine bringing that same level of zrizos and that same level of commitment and that same level of God awareness to our relationship with Ribono Shel Olam. El le'inyan tuma. Rather, also when the Gemara asks about avodah zarah less than a kizayis, it wasn't asking regarding an isser hana. Rather, it was asking regarding tuma. Does an avodah zarah less than the size of a kizayis convey tuma or not? That's the shaila. So the Gemara says, "My kevan de iskish la sheretz." So do we say that since avodah zarah is compared to sheretz, ma sheretz becha adasha, just like sheretz only conveys tuma if it's at least the size of a lentil, af avodah zarah nami becha adasha. So to avodah zarah could convey tuma even as small as a lentil. Odzilma, the other possibility is ha iskash lameis. Avodah zarah is compared to the dead, to a corpse, to corpse tuma. Ma meis bekizayis. Just like ultimately, again, a corpse only conveys tumah if there's a kizayis of it. Af avodah zarah b'kizayis. So to avodah zarah only conveys tumah if there's at least avodah zarah the size of a kizayis. So we'll say, so which one is it? Amar Rav Avi v'tim Rav Bar Ula. So Rav Avi said, others say Rav Bar Ula. Tashma desanya avodah zarah pechusa mikizayis ein ba tumah kol ikar. We learned in a brayso that avodah zarah that is less than a kizayis does not convey tuma at all. Shneimar, quotes over here the pasuk from Malachim, Vayashlech es afra el kever b'nei ha'am. They took the dust of the avodah zarah, the Asherah, and they threw it by the kfarim. They threw it by the graves. So there's a connection over here between avodah zarah and tumas meis, corpse tuma. Mag meis bekizayis, just like ultimately again a corpse only conveys tuma with a kizayis. Af avodah zarah bekizayis. So to avodah zarah only conveys tuma by kizayis, with a kizayis. V'rabbanon, the Rabbanon will say, "L'may hilchasa iskish l'sheretz." Why is it according to the Rabbanon that avodah zarah is compared to sheretz? D'lo metame b'masa, to teach us that just like a sheretz only conveys tumas maga, not tumas masa, so to avodah zarah only conveys tumas maga, not tumas masa. Ayla nida. Why is avodah zarah compared to a nida? De'ina le'ivarim, to teach that just as tumas nida does not apply to detached limbs, so to avodah zarah does not apply to any part of the idol which is detached from the primary idol. So the Gemara says, lemeis, and why is avodah zarah compared to a mace, to a corpse? To teach us that just as a mace only conveys tumah if you have a kizayis or more, so too if you have less than a kizayis of avodah zarah, that does not convey tumah. So the Gemara says, I aim l'chumrah, but I will say in all of these cases the comparisons yielded a leniency. Why not say that the avodah zarah is compared to sheretz, nida, and mace, all in order to go out and create stringencies? Aim l'chumrah, and we'll say, what would the chumrah be? L'mais, the Gemara says, my hilchasa akshar achmana l'sheretz. So we'll say, if you were looking at this l'chumrah, you would say, why does the Torah compare, or why does the pasuk compare avodah zarah to a sheretz? Actually, this is the Torah. L'tamuye b'chadasha, to teach us that just as sheretz becomes tamei through a lentil's amount, so to avodah zarah even could convey tumah with such a small amount. L'nida, why is avodah zarah compared to nida? L'tamuye be'evan misamo, to say that just as nida conveys tumah through evan misamo, right? Remember again through sitting on top of the suspended rock. So too again avodah zarah does so as well. So the Gemara says, right? Ikshar achmana l'meis. Why does the Torah compare, or why do the Psukim compare Avodah Zarah to a corpse? L'tamuye ba'ohel. Ultimately, again, to teach you that just as a mace conveys tumah through tumas ohel, so too again Avodah Zarah. Remember again, if you're under the same roof as a corpse, it conveys tumah. So just as a corpse conveys tumah, if you're underneath the same roof as it, so too Avodah Zarah should do the same. So what the Gemara is asking over here is as follows: You darshaned that Avodah Zarah is essentially compared to three different things. It's compared to sheretz, nida, and mace. And in your comparison, the comparison yielded leniencies vis-a-vis Avodah Zarah. Why not go ahead and make the comparison between Avodah Zarah and those three items and create a stringency? To which the Gemara says very simple: Tumas Avodah Zarah dirabanan. Well, it's a very important point. The Tumah of Avodah Zarah ultimately, again, is only rabbinic in nature. Midda Oraisa Avodah Zarah does not convey Tumah. It is only midrabanan that it conveys tumah, and therefore what the Gemara says: tumas avodah zarah who the v'kula v'chumra l'kula makshinan l'chumra. I'm sorry, tumas avodah zarah drabanani v'kula v'chumra l'kula makshinan l'chumra lo makshinan. Sefer Rabbi says a very simple answer, and this is actually quite profound. This whole discussion of tumah by avodah zarah, halacha l'maisa, is a rabbinic discussion. It is not a biblical discussion. Rashi points out over here, Dirabanan, Decholhane Chekeshos Divrei Kabbalah Ninhu, Va'asmachta Ba'alma. I will say this is very important. First of all, the psukim, most of the psukim that we were quoting were psukim from Navi. The only one pasuk you have from the Torah is the pasuk of Shaket Tishaktsenu, which the Gemara understands to teach me that Avodah Zarah has Tumas Sheretz. And Rashi points out, even that's not an explicit drasha, that ultimately, again, is an asmachta. So even though we were quoting psukim, ultimately, again, to highlight the idea of Tumas Avodah Zarah, the Gemara says unequivocally here that the Tumah, the ritual impurity of Avodah Zarah, is rabbinic, is dirabanan. And because it's dirabanan, therefore, again, if I have a choice between going l'chumra and l'kula, interpretations that ultimately yield stringencies or leniencies, because it is rabbinic law, we will ultimately adapt the leniencies and not the stringencies. So now again, we're left with a variety of questions, really three primary questions, which is, what's the nature of Tumas Avodah Zarah? So we know it's rabbinic, but midrabanan, is Tumas Avodah Zarah going to be like sheretz, like mace, like nida? That's question number one. Question number two is, what happens halacha l'maisa, again, if the item is detached, right? If the piece of Avodah Zarah is detached. So we'll say, listen to this. So the Rambam in Hilchos Avos Hatzuma, this is in Perek Vav, the beginning of Perek Vav. So we'll say, so listen, I'm just going to quote you a few lines from the Rambam. So this is in Perek Vav, Halacha Aleph. So the first thing the Rambam says here is, Tumas Avodah Zarah Medivrei Sofrim. So number one, the Tumah of Avodah Zarah is Midrabanan. Okay, so that we've established already. Tumah Avodah Zarah is Midrabanan. V'yesh la remez min haTorah. It has scriptural allusions, and actually the Rambam quotes a number of different psukim. Right? So halacha l'maisa, again, that's number one. So Tumah Avodah Zarah is Midrabanan. I will say, but what's the nature of the Tumah? So in halacha beis, Avodah Zarah atzma metame adam v'kelim b'maga ve'eno metame b'masa kisharetz. So halacha l'maisa, the Rambam paskins that Avodah Zarah conveys tumas maga, only tumah through contact, not tumah through carrying. In other words, that the tumah of Avodah Zarah is like tumas sheretz, like the tumah of rodents. So halacha l'maisa, again, only through maga, not through masa. So we'll say essentially we reject the view of Rabbi Akiva as espoused in the Mishnah. Because remember again, Rabbi Akiva in yesterday's daf said that halacha l'maisa, again, Avodah Zarah is like a nida, just like nida conveys tumas masa, so to Avodah Zarah conveys tumas masa, and the Rambam says that is not correct. We do not paskin that way. Rather, we paskin that Avodah Zarah only conveys tumas maga, tumah through contact. In halacha gimel, katzatz eiver mimena, afilo haya kimardea, harei zetar, sha'avodah Zarah eina mitame le'evarim, ela hatsura kula kishihi shlema. And halacha number three, paskins the Rambam is, Avodah Zarah itself only conveys tumah when when it is fully intact. If the idol itself is not intact, so the idol won't convey tumah, and ultimately, again, the limb of the idol will not convey tumah. So therefore, I will say, halacha l'maisa, the tumah of avodah zarah is dirabanan. Number two, the tumah of avodah zarah is like a sheretz, and therefore only conveys tumah through maga, contact, not through masa, not through carrying. And number three, the avodah zarah only conveys tumah when it is whole and fully intact. But if there's a piece of it that is removed, and by the way, the Rambam makes no distinction if the piece could be easily reattached, not easily reattached. The Rambam makes no such distinction. Therefore, again, if the avodah zarah is not whole, then halacha l'maisa, neither the idol nor the appendage that is removed has the ability to convey tumah. Incredible. We'll say, let's at least begin the next Mishnah. Minayim l'sina shehi tahora. We'll say, how do we know that a boat is going to be tamei, right? Excuse me. A boat is going to be tar. A boat cannot contract ritual impurity. Interesting. How do I know that? Shene'emar derech aniya belev yam. Because the pasuk says, literally again, the way of the boat is in the heart of the sea. So I will say, the way the Mishnah understands that pasuk is that the pasuk is comparing the boat to the sea. The boat to the sea. Namely, what is this? By the way, this pasuk is from Mishlei. Just as the sea, the yam, is not mekabel tumah, so too again the boat is not mekabel tumah as well. And the Gemara says it explicitly. Pshita aniya belev yami. I don't understand, like, what exactly is the novelty in that statement that the boat is in the heart of the sea? What's the chiddush there? To which the Gemara says, Kamash malon kiyam. It's teaching that the boat is like the sea. Ma yam tahar, just like the sea is tahar, af sfina tahora. So too ultimately again the boat is tahar as well. The boat is tahar as well. So I will say, therefore, teaching us this fascinating halacha. So even though, again, I just want to point out, you begin to see any time, just by the way, that you're quoting a pasuk from that is not from the Torah, and like in this case, we're quoting over here a pasuk from Mishlei. Obviously, what that's conveying to me is that halacha l'maisa, this particular halacha is not midaraisa, but rather this particular halacha is ultimately going to be midrabanan. All right, so we'll stop over here for today. Again, the sugya continues on with a greater discussion about the boat. But we'll stop over here. Chananya, we'll say take the opportunity. The zooming in is still going on. Sammy Asterson will lead today in just a few moments. So we'll say, so I just want to take the opportunity to wish everyone a beautiful Yom Tiv, a Chag Kasher v'Sameach, an uplifting Kabbalah Satorah. Send out Dvar Torah for Shavuos, Emir Hashem, just a little bit early this morning, and wishing everyone an incredible opportunity. Halavai v'shavi zocha, Emir Hashem. We have the great schus to be able to learn together every morning, and the truth is, we know the beauty of the Yam Shel Tamid. We know the beauty of this beautiful sea of Torah, and how enriching it is, and how uplifting it is, and how cathartic it is, and how when we begin at 5:45, we're one type of person, and by the time we end at 6:45, we're a different type of person. We should be Zochem over the Yom Tov of Shavuos, even though we're not going to have many of the normal trappings of our Yom Tov, right? We're not going to have our all-night learning together. But Emeretz Hashem, please make sure that over this Yom Tov of Shavuos, make sure to utilize the time for learning, right? But it's not just for the daf, but maybe some chazara, maybe some review of what we've learned before, or maybe take on a special learning project for the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Decide what you're going to accomplish, decide what you're going to finish, decide you're going to chazar a perek, or decide you're going to learn something else. It doesn't make a difference. Choose whatever it is that you want, but use this Yom Tov, use these coming days. Emeretz Hashem is a way of reconnecting and reigniting not just our learning of Torah, but our simchas Torah, our excitement over learning. And let us emerge from this Yom Tov with a true recognition of Ashreinu, Matov Chalkeinu Mana in Gorlinu Ma'afayiru Shasenu. How privileged we are to have this beautiful thing called Torah. How privileged we are to have this magnificent gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And how privileged we are to learn this beautiful treasure each and every day. I wish all of you a good Erev Yom Tov, a beautiful and uplifting Yom Tov of Shavuos. And again, like I said, I'll send out the Dvar Torah just a little bit later this morning.